Hello and welcome to the Breaking Free podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Francis. And today I'm very grateful and very humble, joined by a good friend of mine for a balcony chat. Jess, welcome. Jess is a holistic, meditation teacher, healer. She does a lot of things. She's also lived a very interesting life too. Jess and I found each other through our good friend Dale. She followed me from his work when he was sharing my stuff. So thank you, Dale, for bringing another person into my life. Jess, welcome to my show today. We have a lot to talk about. Jess is also going to be the second speaker for my new program for 19 to 35-year-olds, which you'll find more information about in the show notes. Jess is going to do alcohol and drug awareness, and we're going to talk a lot about that today, I feel, for you. So, Jess, welcome to my show. How do you feel? How are you? And
good, I'm good.
We've had an interesting chat off there, haven't we?
Just a little.
Usually the way things work with friends of mine, everyone, you can all get a bit of a taste of what goes on here. I have friends that stir me as much as I stir them. So I listened to Jess spill some stuff earlier, and then roles were reversed and she stirred up me, and now we're sitting here ready to record a podcast. Oh, man. Right, Jess.
You're welcome.
Your story. Your story.
Okay.
Tell me, there's parts I haven't heard, so my listeners and viewers are going to get a really awesome insight into your stuff today. Might as well start at the start. So where would you like to go with the start of your story to where you are now? Because you do some pretty awesome shit. So
Oh, okay. Where it all starts. So ultimately, I am about 4.5 months sober. So it was about 4 or 5 years ago that I really started to become very aware that I needed to look at better ways of coping and better ways of being. So that was really the catalyst of what started everything. Becoming very aware that my drinking habits were either filling a void or escaping from a lot of things that were happening with my own self-worth, my own validations, my own nervous system regulation and things like that. So, and programs and all those deeper things, but that's where everything started. And where that kind of went from there is obviously went into meditation, and that's kind of where I've now landed, and I do my meditation groups and holistic counseling and things to help people the way that I needed back then. So that's where I started and where I've ended up, and the story in between is quite convoluted, but I guess the funny thing with alcohol and substances and any kind of thing is, as you share as well, Nathan, it's always masking something deeper. And I think when we eliminate those things and then sit with the feelings that are within that, there's so much that comes up and continues to come up around that. If that makes sense.
it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It does. It does, because you're hiding parts of yourself. You're hiding your true self, aren't you? And you're hiding your darkness, you could say.
Yes. So obviously going through a very deep, dark time, which is still quite, something that's still present in my mind, even though it was quite some time ago. I still kind of remember what that felt like, and knowing that there's that space that you can go to that feels very, very dark. And I was able to feel that without alcohol. And that was the thing that I'd been numbing for so long. So when I kind of stopped drinking and then started feeling everything, I was like, whoa. This is all the stuff that I'd been hiding for so long. And I started drinking when I was very young. And I think I was about 15 at the time when that started coming into my life. And so it was a long period of time that I was masking things and avoiding things and just being that fun version that everyone wanted me to be. I was basically masking, but also being a different person as well too, and showing up in a way that wasn't who I was. So when I stopped, not only was I feeling everything, but I had to go through a period of like, who am I? And that's where that big journey started to take place.
Interesting. Yeah. Because that's what those substances do, right? They mask what's going on internally, and they are a pain numbing, reality numbing substance.
Yep.
And you take those things away and you start to feel things. And it's a really big thing out there in society to say that there's a lot of people out there that don't necessarily want to feel those things because it's a place they don't want to go.
Absolutely.
How was actually, what was the catalyst for you to be like, I need to feel this now? Like there's always a moment.
There's a moment.
Yeah. We all have those moments.
There's always a moment.
What was your moment?
And as I said, I think it was really that time when I made the decision to stop drinking, and I think it was Australia Day. And this kind of ties into a lot of things that even you yourself speak of around kind of conditioning around societal things and how accepted drinking is. And obviously
especially on like public holidays too.
Yeah. So like, it was an Australia Day and I did what I would normally do. And, you'd start drinking at 9 o'clock in the morning and just drink all day with your friends.
Yeah.
And, there was still fun, but there was also, I have so much more fun in my life now as well too. So, it was a big day. There was a lot of drinking, and it was that day that I went, this isn't sustainable.
Yeah.
Something is not right here. And I was always putting myself into positions of losing my inhibitions and doing things that I really, from a soul level, I really didn't want to do, but I was doing them because I was trying to fill a void and trying to feel validated by someone, generally the opposite sex.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's kind of where, that took place on that day. And I was like, no, something needs to give here.
Mm.
I then did a process of a couple of days where I was like, no, I'm going to set myself a challenge of not drinking for 30 days. And that was where it all started. So on the 2nd of Feb is when I started 30 days, and I haven't gone back since then.
30 days.
So I did the 30 days
and kept going.
And just kept going.
That's awesome.
At the end, I think it was just 30 days. Because everyone says, and I say this to people that ask me about alcohol now. I say to them, look, go the 30 days. At the end of the 30 days, you'll have a really good indication of what your relationship is with the alcohol.
Same with any substance or addiction. It's the same with porn and smoking and all those things.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Like, you take that away for 30 days. Like, what's
actually what's actually come up for you. And it's about doing a really in-depth awareness of what shows up for you too. It's not just like being like, oh, I'm not going to have a drink for 30 days. It's like actually what's happening in that 30 days to make you go, why was I drinking? Why was I doing these things? And it really brought up a lot of things. And then I was like, okay, well, I've done the 30 days. And for me, and obviously stopping the alcohol, I noticed a lot of health benefits in the 30 days as well that were physical.
Yeah.
So that was another thing. I was like, oh, well, I may as well go another 30 days. I'll go another 30 days. And now it's literally like, it's still a daily thing, which I think unless you have had a significant problem with substances, it's hard to understand that it is still something that you deal with on a daily basis.
So you still get cravings, or?
Yeah.
So how does that play out? Because I know a lot of people, like, they'll either have the cravings or they can easily just give it up. I know for me, I just went, see you
Yeah,
later. But
yeah, which we've had conversations
yeah,
around
how
before.
does we can have a conversation now, like
Yeah.
so, like cravings, like temptations. How would you? I know a lot of people would love to hear how you manage that.
Yeah, it's and it was funny, I was only talking to someone about this recently as well, the whole craving thing. A big part of the cravings is when you are dealing with something difficult. So that's first and foremost, like that's a pretty obvious one. Like if you deal with something that comes up for you that upsets you or something, like you're instantly going to think of, well, I'll go have a drink, that'll make it better. You know, like we live in a culture, especially for women and mothers, that if you've had a big day with your kids or if you had a big day at work, just go home and have a drink, you'll be right.
Have a wine.
You know, so it's about kind of looking at that and that link between emotions, but there's also not only just when things are difficult, but there is just those things where you just get that taste in your mouth. And I know that sounds really unusual.
For me, it does.
But you do get that taste. And for me, it's really just staying focused in on the why as to why I do what I do now.
Yeah.
Also just being kind and gentle with yourself is
What does
really
that? What
important.
what does that look like? You know, you can just sort of throw the line out there, but what does that look like
Being
for
kind
someone?
and
Yeah,
gentle.
for someone out there that's listening and watching, what
I
does being kind and gentle look
Yeah,
like for
I
you?
think it's really acknowledging that the craving is there, first and foremost.
For whatever it is, it can be anything.
And then
Yeah.
I think being, you know, especially being so far down the line in terms of it's been like 4 years and I still have this happen, it would be really easy for me to go, well, I've made no progress.
Yeah, but you have though, haven't you?
That I have.
Yeah.
So that's where that gentleness comes into it. It's like, okay, well, I don't berate myself now for when it happens. I go, you know, this is just showing up in my human experience now. And
Yeah.
I haven't gone backwards. It's literally just playing out a particular loop, or there's something energetically stored within my body that's bringing this up for me, and I just allow it to be, and I just go, no, we're still progressing, we're always going forwards, nothing's gone backwards. So that's where that kindness and that gentleness comes in, and not kind of getting yourself too far down a hole, because then that can be another issue as well. But yeah, that's really important for me, and also kind of having a support system in the early days can be really useful.
So you ask for help?
Ask for help, have supportive kind of people around you that don't kind of, you know, I lost a lot of people in my life.
Usually what happens.
That you know, heavy drinkers, or didn't necessarily understand, or would kind of think that, you know, oh, you can just have one, that kind of, but yeah, you do kind of really notice a massive shift in the people around you as well. But yeah.
How did you find moving tribes from the drinking tribe to the healthier tribe? I know for me, I got a lot of pushback.
Yeah.
How was it for you, that process?
I think it all kind of, it fell away pretty organically when I look back on it now. In the time that it was happening, like especially in the early days, it was like I felt like the whole world was crumbling apart.
Yeah.
You know, but I think that's like anything, everything feels like it crumbles before it gets rebuilt. So it's like, now I kind of look back and think that it was really easy, but it probably wasn't in the time. Yeah, and then obviously that the tribe of people that are around me now is quite different. Just in terms of, it's just a lifestyle thing, and it's not to say that I can't be around anyone that drinks, but it's really just dependent on that person and who they are.
Interesting. Yeah, I found that too. I found it interesting, like looking back on the way it happened for me, losing those friends. It's like, well, they were doing things that I wasn't necessarily wanting to do anymore.
Yeah.
So you make that you sort of make that choice of, well, there's a better path for me to
There's
choose.
a better path, and I think
Do a lot of
sometimes,
have you reconnected with, not reconnected, but have you often had those people come back into your field or into your life, and they're saying things like, there's a point to this, I
Yeah.
miss you, I miss the way you were, or you've changed. Like,
Yeah.
how do you, because I get those comments all the time. It's just an easy throwaway line, be like, well, you've changed.
Yeah,
How do you sort of deal with those sort of comments too? Because it's an interesting one to talk about.
it used to happen a lot, not so much anymore.
Yeah.
But I think that's just kind of because when I was in that recovery phase, especially the early days, my awareness was in it. Now I'm like, it's not really an awareness.
Yeah, it's true.
So now, like, I do kind of notice that it happened a lot in the early days. People would say I changed, I wasn't fun anymore.
Yeah.
All these types of things. But it was just that I'd become someone that they didn't know anymore, and that's okay. My version of fun changed a lot. In probably in most areas of my life is way more enjoyable and more fun now anyway.
I can confirm that. It's interesting though, because we get so attached to those things that we sort of are comfortable with being fun, but you look back and you go, well, those drunk times aren't necessarily like that fun.
And the thing is, if it was fun, I don't remember any of those times.
There's that, yeah.
I will regularly get little glimmer, like little kind of, snippets pop up that more so a lot of like yucky stuff that came up, or just not times that were great.
Yeah.
The things that when I think about my part, they're the things that I think about. But the fun side of it, they're pretty few and far between, mainly because I've forgotten most of them.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, you've also, so when you're in the depths of all of that, I often talk about rock bottoms, and was there a moment where you had a rock bottom and you were in that position in the bottom, and like, what was that moment like dealing with, how was, like, did you have a rock bottom? And for anyone out there that's probably having one or currently in one or about to have one, what would be your advice for that person to get out of that really, really dark hole?
Yeah, look, I think it's different for everyone. The depths of everyone's ocean is varied as well too. Some of us go to much deeper depths of that darkness.
Yeah.
It's very kind of personal. For me, it feels like such a blur now. And to be honest, when I was in it, that's what it felt like. It felt like everything was just very, very hazy. I look back and I go, who even was that person?
Yeah.
That's hindsight though. But it's when you're in it, it just feels like it's so consuming. And for me, it had got to a point where I was just so dysregulated with my nervous system. I was always so stressed. I was doing jobs that I hated. I was always finding things that, people were always upsetting me one way or another. I was always projecting different things onto people. Like, I was just a completely different person. And then I was always attracting a certain type of man into my life. And I think that's really where the darkness really started to push me down. And I was this is when I was drinking, obviously, too. So it was, I was doing things with people, and it got really, really dark. And I would just remember that most nights I would, I was smoking at the time as well too. If I wasn't sitting out the back drinking and smoking, I was in a bathtub crying. Or unable to get out of bed, or could only go to work for a certain amount of time, and then I'd have to go home to have a drink. Like, I think it's a really dark place. And then obviously you then start, well, not obviously, but for me, I got to a point where I didn't want to be here. And that was definitely the rock bottom.
Yeah.
I think that when you attempt to do those things and whatever happens that makes you stay. It's I knew that I knew that's how I felt, but I knew that I couldn't go through it, and I tried, and it didn't work. It didn't stick. So that was the rock bottom, and it was, so, and I kind of look back and I just think that there were so many things happening at the time, but really it was all just me. But that's what I know now. So I think when we're talking about people kind of getting themselves out of that darkness, I think it's just realizing that when you're down in the depth of that ocean, you just need to look for those opportunities of light, and know that there's a, I kind of always think of, I'm really visual, this.
Yep.
when you are down on the bottom of the ocean, it's completely dark, and then you're never going to stay down there. You're going to get that buoyancy at some point, and that's when you're going to start to see the light. So I think that was always important. And even now, if I notice that, because we're all human, and I have experienced it before, I do sometimes notice if my practices have kind of gone to the wayside, or I'm not focusing on my self-care and doing all the things that I learned in that recovery stage, I can notice that I can dip back in, and I can start going into, going down into that ocean. But I know now that there's always that light, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's about also hugging tight to that right-hand path too. Like, you can go down that other path, but yeah, it's like really hugging.
And
Yeah,
I
I
think
use
you
that
need to have
analogy.
a really big why.
Like,
As
why
to-
is it?
yeah.
Why are you going back? Or is that what you're sort of saying?
No, I think you're like the why is like that light, and knowing that there is a greater reason to be here, and to share your light as well too. I think
Which is what you're doing right now, Jess.
Yes.
What is your greater reason? So obviously you were down in the shittiness and the darkness of it all. You're in the bottom of the ocean. What was that light for you? Was that just an inner knowing of, I'm here for a more important reason? I'm here for a reason. Like, what was that knowing that you had?
At that point in time, it was just them. It wasn't that I knew or anything like that. I was like, well, fuck, there has to be a reason.
Yeah, okay.
There has to be something.
Yeah.
To go through this, there has to be something bigger at play. And I think that's probably pretty deep. But that was it wasn't, I didn't have the answers to anything. I didn't know where I was going, what I was doing. As I said, everything was really blurry at that time, and it was very, very not nice, and just very sad. Very, very, very sad. And it was, I just knew that there had to be a reason, because there had to be one. And then obviously being a mother as well too, that was another thing that was at play, that I was always just so so sad. And there was a lot of things that went on, being a single mother as well too. You don't kind of have another partner with you, and things like that. So it was always a matter that I was always thinking, oh, I'm always going to be alone, and then I would, be with different men that kind of validated that to me, because I was mirroring it out. But when I kind of did the 30 days, I remember at the end of it, like the end of the 30 days, I turned to my daughter, and she was 10 at the time. And I said, do you notice anything different about mom? And she's like, oh no, like, what 10-year-olds are like. She was like, oh, nothing, blah, 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 just jumping over me, cuddling me, doing, kid stuff. And I said, well, mom actually hasn't had a drink and she knew what it was. Like, she knew what beer and everything was. Like, it was a normal thing in our household. I said, well, mum hasn't had a wine or a drink in the last 30 days. And she turned to me at that point and she said, I've got my mum back.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's always been my why, because I didn't necessarily realize, or I was just too arrogant to realize how much of myself I was depriving her of, and not just my time, but my energy as well. So that's what keeps me still going.
That's a really that's awesome. That's really empowering for anyone
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah. And like, I know that not everyone has got, even if you don't have children or things like that, I think we've all got something that we should be sharing our energy with, you know, whether or not it's someone that, you know, you might want to be writing a book or doing or putting your energy into something else. There's always something that your soul needs its light and its energy to go to. So it's about just connecting in with yourself and knowing what that is.
It's different for everyone.
Absolutely. Everyone's
For
very
me, it was
different.
this.
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. If there's someone out there, Jess, it's a woman or it could be me, a man, that's in the depths of their shit,
Mm-hmm.
what would be your advice to that person to start taking that step towards recovery?
The most important thing would be to set yourself, even look, if 30 days seems too much, if it's 7 days, I think just by removing the things that you're relying on, just so you can get inquisitive, I think is really important. It's going to be hard, it's not going to be comfortable, but we didn't necessarily come here for comfortable either.
No, we did not.
But still, like, I think just being, you know, kind and gentle, doing the things that make you feel good.
And what are those things to you?
And I think everyone's really different. Like for me, it was getting into a meditation practice and honoring my self-care. For me, like that was such a big thing, and actually just being with myself.
Yeah.
And they sound like really, really simple things to get you out of a deep, dark hole like that. But it was very important to me, and I had like a really, you know, strict process around what my day would look like and the practices that I would do and the tools that I would use to just get me through each day.
Yeah.
And it was just from there that you know, just kind of got built upon. And yeah, that's what really helped me, was just knowing that I had the power to change it.
Yeah, that's a really deep inner knowing to have though, because we all have the power to change it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's actually finding that power and taking that power back and actioning that change.
Mm.
I see it a lot, as you know, I see it a lot out there in the work I do, that it's about helping people understand that they've always had the power, and that's
Yeah.
with anything.
Oh, absolutely. And we've all got it. And sometimes it's, you know, when you are in those really deep, dark times, or feeling like everything's just getting on top of you. I always recommend that people have at least 3 things that bring them just perspective.
Yeah.
I think is important. So if I notice that I'm dipping, I'll then refer to my 3 things, and that's like spending time outdoors.
Yes.
Meditation, being creative is another one for me. And just having these outlets, which again, when you're at the point where you can't get out of bed, get out of bed be that thing. It can be that simple. Like, I think it's you don't need to put pressure on it. You need to just be kind, be gentle. If one thing that you do for yourself each day is get out of your pajamas, then that's it. And you just give you know, and I think that sounds really simple, but when you're in that state of mind, you've got to really simplify it and not think about the future and not think about how overwhelming things are. Don't think about anything else other than, okay, what's the small thing that I can do? And then you just start stacking those habits from
Progression,
because
not
getting
perfection.
out of your PJs and getting out of your bed are the most important things. And if that's all you can do, that's all you can do.
Progression, not perfection.
Absolutely.
Yeah, lots to ponder. I was just going to ask you about. What are the 3 things? So, that they like things that you stand by now.
Yes.
They're the 3 things that you do that if you know you're feeling a certain way,
Yep.
that I can refer back to my meditation,
Yep.
getting outside, and what was the third one?
Getting creative.
Getting creative.
Yeah.
So obviously now, how did you find what you do now? Did all this stuff come to you? Because through the dark periods, you start then you start connecting to your souls. You start sort of
Absolutely.
working out what it is that you want to do. You do a lot of meditation circles, sound healings. You've done some sound bowl sessions in just this room here with us. They've been awesome. How did all of that find you? My throat's playing up. How did all of that find you?
I think
Or did you find it?
Oh, look, chicken before egg. I don't really know. When I'm pretty sure I'd given up drinking at this point, but I'd found a sound healing group.
Yep. Did that find you though? Or did you
I
find
believe it did.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm still friends with the lady that I did the sound groups with all that time ago. And
Oh, there you go.
yeah, she's a beautiful lady, and I don't think she necessarily knows how helpful it was, because I would go regularly and started to notice those shifts. And anyone that has worked with sound, especially doing on a regular basis, you really start to notice the shifts that it does do to your overall well-being. It's very, very powerful stuff.
Can confirm.
Yeah. So I would do that with her, and from there I was like, okay, well, meditation's been so helpful for me in getting me out of this space.
Yeah, okay.
Meditation is absolutely the number one thing. Like, if someone said, what can I do, aside from getting out of bed, is meditation, and meditating correctly.
Yeah,
as
deep
well
breath
too.
work.
Yeah, actually having a practice, sticking to it. So because I knew that, that's when I was like, well, I need to study this. I studied it really just for my own kind of awareness, and trying to understand what was actually happening in the background and why this was working. So it was really just a thing that I wanted to learn. And then from there I was like, well, no, I need to share this with more people. And yes, that's how that kind of all played out. I started doing sessions just at my home and different places, and yeah, that's how
Powerful.
that flew.
Because you're very good on the sound bowls, and I'll never forget that day a couple months ago you broke one.
Yes.
Actually, you broke it just behind me here in this house.
Yeah,
I'm living now. You broke it in my joint. I'll never forget that day. I had a feeling you were going to break that.
Yeah.
There's
It's okay.
There's things that so people out there will want to know this too. Like, when you start this journey, the universe, spirit, divine, what do you want to call it, starts testing you to see how serious you are on that change you want to make.
Yep.
How have those tests been for you? Because people sort of know how those tests have been for me.
Yeah. I would say they're pretty constant. Like, I think, without going into too much, like, I see our entire existence like a game.
It is a
really
game.
And
Like the Matrix or the Hunger Games. Hunger Games?
do it too much, but I think that, like, the whole thing's a game. We're all characters. There's different levels to it, and in order to go to the next level, we're gonna get those kind of little demons that get thrown to like, just before you kind of, like, jump onto the flagpole at the end of Mario.
Yeah. That's an interesting analogy to use. I get.
You're gonna get those last little things thrown at you, and I think that. And those tests can sometimes be wrapped in some pretty good packages too.
You're right, but they're not just. They're people. There could be places. They could be
places,
opportunities,
substances, all those types of things. It can be it can be a mindset too. Like, those kinds of things. So
how serious are you?
Yeah. So obviously, I think that's with the test. It's a building of self-awareness, I think.
To recognize it?
Yeah.
So how would one recognize that there is a test here? It could be literally you want to quit your 9 to 5 like what I've just done, and then you have a test of
getting offered more money.
Yes.
Like, that's a test.
Yes.
But most people would see that as, well, when you see, usually those tests are kind of linked very directly into very ego-centered parts of the game as well too. So usually it's more money or an instant relationship or things like that. So it's about kind of understanding, okay, well, if someone gives me more money, do I really want to stay in this job that makes me unhappy? No, I don't. So having that self-awareness and that inquiry with yourself rather than just taking everything that gets given your way, because you even though we control everything, we're also controlling everything from a subconscious and a conscious mind too. So you're bringing things into your life that.
And I work very closely with that part of the mind, as you know. And it's about becoming aware of the things that you're doing, the things that you're attracting, and the opportunities that are coming your way. And they could very well just be tests as well. It's a very interesting sort of conversation term we've had here, isn't it?
Yes.
Because the universe tests me all the time, and it's a very interesting journey with that.
Yeah, and I think to bring it into like when you think about substances and addictions and drinking or whatever the case may be,
because those temptations are always going to be there.
Yeah, the tests are the temptations. So it could be the fact if it's like early days of let's say for instance you've set your 30 days, you're like, I'm gonna do my 30 days of no drinking.
It's not gonna be easy.
The next day, one of your mates you haven't seen in 10 years gives you a ring and he's like, mate, come on, let's go and play some pool and go down to the pub like the good old days. That's a test. It's okay, are you really serious about leveling up in your life? Are you really serious, or are you gonna go down to the pub?
Oh no.
No. We would.
No, I wouldn't.
That's kind of when
that's an example. Good example.
That's an example.
It's a good example.
What a temptation or a test would come at you like when you're starting to make changes in your life. And I think it's about having that self-awareness and that inquiry, because if something does come up, you can actually sit and go, like, say for instance you do get offered more money to stay in a job, you can then go, okay, this is all the information that I have. How do I actually truly feel about this? And this is why meditation is so important, because it enables us to sit within the presence of our being and understand what it is that we truly want. And more often than not, it's not linked to money.
Yeah,
it's usually linked to a feeling.
Feeling and fulfillment.
Yeah.
Fulfilling, and that's probably the next lead in the next conversation is everyone's version of success is so different. We've lost our way with that.
Yep, absolutely.
Everyone out there in modern society feel like success is a big house like we're looking at over here, or it's a flashy car, or it's a beautiful woman or a beautiful man as their version of success that they've made it. That's not necessarily successful. I don't feel anyway.
No, so back in the day, back in my drinking days,
we all had
I was in a quite a corporate role, I guess you would say, in sales. And
you can tell about your other job you had too.
Yeah, we'll get there.
I've been looking forward to hearing about that story. There's a job Jess used to have that's coming. We'll get there. I'm just looking forward to hearing about. Anyway, sorry, go
on. And I was in corporate sales for quite a long time, and obviously a high stress job, and very okay for drinking and things like that that happened in the workplace, and obviously making a lot more money too. Like there was, I was on six-figure incomes for for so many years in my early 20s. I bought my first house at 19. I was making a lot of money back then. But I look back now in comparison, and the feelings and the life that I have now is so much happier and content than what I ever could have been with the money that I had then.
Interesting. Know what I say? Money doesn't buy happiness.
No. No. But, as long as you've got your basic needs are met, and all of my current needs are met, it's having that understanding and then, accepting but you need to have a solid foundation of who you are. And
how does one get that solid foundation of who they are, Jess?
You know what I'm going to say.
Yeah, I do. I do. That's why you must well say it.
Meditation.
Yes, 100%.
It's very, very important. Very important.
So what does your meditation practice look like?
Look, it looks a lot different now than what it used to when I was really implementing it. So and everyone has different time restraints as well too. But for me, it was twice a day, formally twice a day. Now it's still twice a day, and I might kind of jut off a couple of extra times a day too. It definitely has amplified more now because I know how beneficial it is. So I will do short meditations throughout the day, or notice myself meditating in public and things like that, because it's able to drop into a lot easier now. And you would understand this as well.
Yeah.
Like you can kind of go into those spaces a lot easier than when you're first starting your practice. But to start a practice, I always say at least set one time a day, even if it's for 10 minutes, 5 minutes.
Do you prefer guided or doing it yourself? Because there's some good guided ones on YouTube that people use.
A mixture.
A mixture?
Kind of girl. Yeah, a mixture. Obviously, sound is super important to me. So
Yeah, sound.
usually frequencies, those types of things. Guided meditations, not so much. It will just depend on where I'm at.
Like,
but
you can just go for a walk in the bush and that's a meditation.
Look, we were talking about this before.
We were.
I went on a bushwalk yesterday and was just sitting watching the river, listening to the sounds. And when you get into that meditative state, you can do it anywhere.
Exactly.
So I find that those times in nature are probably my most favorite meditation times aside from sound. So yeah, but yeah, guided not so much.
Yeah, because it's a good way to start. I know I did a lot
It
of
is.
guided stuff when I started. Now I sort of put sound healing frequencies on and sort of just going off in a woo-woo space.
The guideds are good if you need to kind of really help train the mind. So they are definitely a really great starting point, especially when you need to kind of keep that practice on the breath and things like that.
Yeah, breathwork's important too. That box breathing, the holding of like in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, and then you can stretch it out to 10, 12, whatever.
Yeah, and then even just a really simple one, by just doing like an inhale and exhale breath, which is a simple breath.
Like,
if you extend out your exhale, you're actually telling your entire body that it's safe. So you're actually allowing your parasympathetic nervous system to completely relax simply by inhaling and then doing a longer exhale. So people could do that, like if they're in their work day, super easy. Like if you're on your lunch break, even if you just go, okay, I'm going for a bathroom break, do it in there if you need it. Like just that's a really easy one just to come back into your body. And then there's different ways of just coming into your heart space and things like that.
That's good advice. Really good advice. I really want to circle back. I really want to circle back.
Come on.
Now, how did you get from? We've discussed a bit mumbo jumbo, but we're getting to a point. Now, I wanted to circle back. There's a part of your life.
Yeah.
So you had the corporate job, first house at 19.
Yes.
How does one then go into the other avenue of work that you went into for a few years? How did you get from that to that?
I know you wanted to go into this.
I kind of do.
I worked in corporate
and
sales for a long time.
What happened?
I think it was my daughter was about 2.5, 3 when I separated from her father. And it was at that point where I realized I couldn't be in a corporate job anymore. Like I just couldn't work, especially sales. I couldn't work 7 days. I couldn't have people on the phone all the time. So I went into a retail job at that time. I also I think I had there was a couple of times there where I had 3 and 6 months off to be with her as well, which was nice. But retail, and then I'm just trying to think of the timing of it. I think it was about 3 years ago now, and I actually went and for whatever reason it came into my life, and it came in and definitely taught me a lot of things, and especially helped me for where I am now. So a few years ago, I started working within the sex industry, not in kind of in retail spaces, so obviously adult shops, but then also in brothel environments as well too.
She wasn't
I wasn't
person that
working.
you were doing admin.
I was doing management, but
You weren't someone a man can
in
choose.
in that space and kind of in that world of a very kind of it's a very like it's just very sexualized.
What did it sort of teach you though? It definitely taught you something.
And I think when I had the opportunity to do that management kind of role in, especially in the brothel, I was at a point where I hated men. Hated them.
This is another part of this we can have now. Yeah.
I was like, because it was like I was already sober at this point, but it was pretty early days and I'd had so many men just kind of come in and out of my life and just hurt me. And obviously it was, I look now and I go, it was all necessary, but I just hated them. And I took the job and I was like, look, if anything, it's going to give me more insight into who they are. And that was the intention that I went into it with. I really wanted to understand men and how they relate to sex and connection and relationships. That was a really
good place to go to learn how to sort of understand all that, isn't it?
It really actually was.
Yeah.
And I think for me it was understanding that like when I finished up there, like I really saw that men have a much deeper aspect to them when it comes to that. And then obviously meeting you, it was like, okay, well, they're doing these things to fill some sort of void. So I was like, well, they're no dissimilar to me and who I was.
Yeah.
Really. So I think that
we're not that bad.
No, I know you aren't. It was like, it was a massive acceptance things for me and really kind of started to get those kind of cogs turning around how my perception of men changed, how my perception on sex changed as well too.
Yeah.
That then kind of catapulted into changing my own perceptions and kind of looking at doing, like I did bouts of celibacy and things like that and really dug into that connection with not only myself but also kind of what I was looking for from men as well too. So it had like this real like indent and catapult into who I then have now become.
Celibacy is important. And it's not something a lot of young people my age are doing or people your age are doing. We're sort of nearly the same age. I just don't feel like it's something that people do. No, and I know for me, I haven't had physical contact with a woman we're going on 3 years now, Jess.
Yeah.
And it's been a journey that I had to embark on.
Yeah. And
given the way I used to live my life.
This is the thing, like we're all different, but I think that when you live a certain way, that's something like alcohol, take a break from it and see what comes up for you.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I think I did the same thing with Selvis. I was like, no, I'm just not talking to any men. There's no dating apps, there's no sex, no nothing for 30 days. And then I think I ended up was like, well, hey, I may as well do a year.
Yeah.
And then I did
you got 3 with me.
And
3
then
years.
it really, if you're someone that's struggling with understanding your worth or feeling like you need validation from others all the time or things all the time, it's really important practice because it really deepens that connection to yourself.
Yeah.
And deepens the connection to the relationship, not only with your mind and your soul, but also your own body as well too. Another thing of working in that industry too, it really taught me that there's absolutely nothing wrong with me.
Yeah.
Like I think that was, there was so much acceptance that came up in that. And then obviously doing the celibacy that I was like, oh, hang on a second. If someone came into my life and they were only there, for sex, it was pretty, you could get to the bottom of it pretty quickly. And I think that's really cool when that someone wants to be around you for much bigger reasons than physical contact. it's a pretty big deal. And I think it's nice when you can take that time out and appreciate that within yourself.
It's powerful.
Mm.
This was a very good chat.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to share before we sort of wrap things up? And I guess what will be your final message for someone out there?
Oh.
Go on.
Oh,
Final message.
No, I think it's really, it always for me, and I know I tell you this a lot too, I think it's always understanding that you have more control than what you realize, and that you are really the only one controlling any of it, really, when you get to the awareness of that and realizing that there is no they, and
It's all you.
it's all you, and everything is a reaction to that, and you have so much more power.
That is true.
Yeah, that's something that especially if someone's, really kind of in the thick of it, which isn't a nice place to be. But I think knowing that, we have the power to make our lives bad, but we have the power to make it good.
Yes.
That's a really big thing for me. I obviously have done this work for some time now, and I actually dabble in going, okay, well, if I change my mindset, what's it gonna do?
Yeah.
And
So
then
you test it.
and I'm like, oh man. At least I know it works.
Yes, it does work.
So yeah,
It does work. You got to set the focus for something, and the intention, the focus, and the feeling, and that sort of stuff, and it will happen.
Always focusing on it, on how you want to feel, and bring that in.
Yeah. Thank you, Jess, for all that you shared today. Awesome balcony podcast chat. Jess is part of the program I'm launching for 19 to 35-year-olds. I said at the start. Links to that can be found in the show notes. Jess is going to present alcohol and drug awareness, talking about all the things you spoke about today, and helping those, those people break out of those cycles in an hour and a half presentation, which I'm looking forward to seeing and listening to. So sign up for that is now open. It is open till June 16th, which is opening day. It's all there. Jess is there. I'm here. Let's all work together, and let's build a awesome community and sort of help people break free from all these things that are holding them back, and helping them realize that they have the power. So what we're doing is giving you the power back.
Absolutely.
So sign up. Let's go. This has been the Breaking Free podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Francis. I'll see you guys again soon with some more awesome guests. So I've really pumped these out, mate. It's been great. So I'll talk to you guys again soon. Thank you, Jess.
Thank you.